Hello, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Welcome. And I will be just testing a few settings, initiating the stream. Okay, testing, testing, testing guest audio. If you can say hello.
Hello, I've unmuted. I hope it's all working. Are we live?
We are live. We are live. Okay, so we are ready for tonight's stream. Welcome to the Patriotic Arts Community Gaming Stream. We're going to be playing through the Talos Principle 2. It's a game full of first-person puzzles, and we're going to navigate through a narrative packed with philosophical threads and puzzles. So we'll get our heads together, exercise our lateral thinking, and discuss some thought-provoking topics. Which brings us to our guest, the man that needs no introduction, Mr. Mark Collet. Hello, welcome, and thanks for being our first guest. How are you doing today, Mark?
Are you sure this is working?
Yeah. It
Are you sure it's going out live?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
You know, but the link's not working, mate.
Yeah, it is. It's a secondary stream. I updated it.
Yeah, but... Oh, man. Yes, we're live.
Yes, we are live. Well, we wouldn't be... it wouldn't be the Patri.Art affiliate without some technical glitches.
Mate, without picking holes in this, you've got two streams. One which was 2 minutes long that's already finished.
Yeah, I know.
All of your
adverts...
all of your adverts are to the stream that's already finished.
Yeah, but I updated it in the settings. I updated it in the... Anyway, we're still live, and...
Yeah, I'm going to have to delete the last post I did from you, because it'll take people to the wrong thing.
Righto. Let's just spend 2 minutes finalising...
I can tell you what, mate. This has begun just as I expected it to begin.
Look,
but worse.
We are a few teething problems.
A few teething problems. You've at least so basically, it says you streamed 15 minutes ago for 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was a 40 seconds. Yeah, there was a technical issue, and I restreamed and it didn't save it. But anyway,
I know. But what I'm saying is, mate, I've advertised that link to everybody.
I understand. I dropped a comment under the chat anyway, just in case. But you can send an update if you want. I've already updated it on mine, on Patriotic Arts. I thought it would do.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't.
Right, we'll reshare it then and delete the old one.
Cascade down. That's the problem, mate. You see, this is why you need me. You see, this is now you understand the pain that I go through every month doing the national stage.
I was almost there. Almost there.
Well, 2 streams is not almost there, mate. I just want to point that out. But I am happy to be here with you. I am happy to be here with you.
Yes, we will shortly be in the game. So we're only 3 minutes overdue before we start getting into the meat and bones of the game. After it's officially shared with a new link.
I have just shared it.
Right, there we are. Brilliant. So, we are live. We are live.
We are live. As we have
so, let's just make sure the levels are fine. We'll take that down. Game.
Are the sound levels okay?
Yeah, I think
for all the confused people who've been to the multiple streams.
Yeah, rage starts already. At least it's got some comedic value anyway. Right, I think the levels are about fine. So I did start a game. Initially, it was a gift to myself for Christmas. I played 2 hours and 57 minutes, and I got through and I thought, you know what? I'm really enjoying this, and I would like to do a stream and go through together with the community, because I just thought it would be very fitting to it's a creative game. The aesthetics are very sort of Eurocentric. There's a lot of philosophical thoughts and a lot of puzzles to be had, a lot of intelligence. It demands a lot of intelligence, so I thought it'd be great for us all to go through. So we'll delete that old one and we'll start a new game. So have you heard of this game, and what do you expect from it?
I've heard of the game, but I have no expectations and I haven't played it myself. So I don't know what to expect. I've heard of it, but I've also just noticed you've spelt my name wrong as well. Like
Double L
I just
and
feel
one
like
T.
2 T's, mate.
All right. Well, I took it from your Telegram, so you spelt it.
No, my Telegram clearly has 2 T's. I'm looking at it now, mate. There is 2 T's. Worst stream ever. I can't believe you've streamed it twice.
You're ruining the ambience.
The ambience. Oh, I've never played this game, so I don't know what to expect. But you've already played it, so basically, what are we doing then? Is it what sort of game is it?
It's a first-person puzzle game, and the second one has a more of a thought-out story. But it will all be explained as we go along.
Have you played the first?
Yeah, I loved it. It's one of my favourite games of all time.
Ah. And over Christmas, did you partake in the Epic Store free games bonanza? They gave one game away free for the 12 days of Christmas.
Let's just listen.
Hear now my voice, and know that I am your friend, and I am called Elohim.
Okay, so as we start out, this is kind of reminiscent of the first, and obviously we've got some of our European friends in ancient Egypt theme format, and we're going to start out doing a few first puzzles. And in the first game, you was mostly the architect who created you and all the puzzles, and you'll see that as we go forwards now, we kind of start to understand a bit more of what's going off.
So who is the main character? Who is the robot? Is it a robot? Is it a cyborg?
It's essentially a robot, but it's a new human sort of intelligence, and the story will unfold itself.
And who created it?
Well, in the beginning, it's the Elohim, and you have to eventually, or the story unfolds. So, you know, we'll know all of this later as we go through. So, we've got this. This is typical of.
So is this like a simulation? Then is the robot in a simulation, or has he been sort of sent back in time to ancient Egypt?
Yeah, it is essentially a simulation. But
why can't you walk through that blue gate?
It's a jammer. So this is like a tool that you essentially jam, and you utilize these as you go forward. So there's jammers, and then there's other tools as well. So it's a bit like Portal 2. Portal, if you remember those games.
I never played any of the Portal games.
Oh, they were great. Again, first-person puzzles.
So that thing let you through that door.
So yeah.
So when you put it down, it lets you through. So how do you get through the next one then? Can you? Oh, you can just walk through that one. Oh no, but one was purple that you could just walk through, and one was blue that you couldn't.
Well, I used a jammer. If you see, there was the jammer that we used. That's, yeah, I could walk through this, and then the jammer was for the blue one. So the purple, obviously, I could walk through. So
the puzzle there is to put the box on the the pressure plate, which opens the gate. So these are like very simple puzzles that are just easing you into the game.
Exactly.
You will stay here only for a little while. Soon you will awaken in a new world. But first, you must undertake the trials.
So how come you can just walk through the purple one?
They will help me prepare your vessel.
Why can you walk through purple ones and not blue ones?
It's just the way the game is. Some they allow you. So
basically, if you see a blue door, that's the door you have to open by solving a puzzle.
You don't have to. I mean, it's just
what I'm
color
trying to get
coded.
at, Patriot, is like, so when we play PUBG, there are two sort of main principles of the game. One is to survive to the end, to win, and by surviving, you basically kill other people. You know, the main mechanic is killing other people. So what I'm saying here, what is the goal of the game, and how do you achieve the goal?
Goal of the game in this initial phase is to do some puzzles to get through. You're trying to understand your purpose as creation, and then the story starts to unfold after that. And you know, you have to the puzzles as you go through is kind of reminiscent of the challenges you face in life. And you go through, you solve the puzzles, and you'll get given the next passage to the story.
Okay, so the purple doors you see take you through to tasks, and you can walk through any of the purple doors.
I think so, yeah. That's what
So
it
if you
seems
walk
to
through
be.
this purple door, we go into like a mission, so to speak.
Yeah, so now I guess you're not watching the actual live stream that I'm seeing, are you?
I am. You're looking at a purple door.
Yeah.
The live stream is
But
like
I'm
30 seconds behind, though.
slight delay, yeah.
I know, mate. You should have restreamed it also live instantaneously.
Yes, I'm new to this. We'll a few teething
Because
problems.
it's cubic steps. You've got to make like an L Tetris block. That's what I can see.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do this next task. And as you can see, so pick up that new one. I've got 2 blocks to go through.
So you're gonna explain what? Oh, so you're basically trying to build that stack up so you can get to that L block.
Exactly. So this is, if you notice, they've been getting slightly harder, and they will just get progressively harder and harder. Some are
Oh no,
more
obviously,
easier
the game will
than
advance.
others.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So once you've got the L, because like on my screen, you're just picking up the L block now.
Yeah.
And it's showing you're picking up these sort of like, I'll call them Tetris blocks.
Yeah. So now you'll be able to see that the first one is collected, and I can move on to getting the next shape. We're essentially collecting the Tetris shapes.
Right, and then you have to position them to get to the next area.
Exactly.
So it's basically like a series of puzzles that you play out like this. And what's the theme of the game then? Because I've noticed there's some, I take it there's Bible passages in this.
Theme is a sort of...
The shapes you are collecting are not mere toys.
Hold on.
They are symbols of the process by which our people were created.
Yeah.
It says, because I'm slightly ahead, it says the symbols we're collecting is a shape of the process of who we're created, how we're created.
Okay.
So yeah, essentially it's a simulation. It seems like we're a simulation, we're a new life form, and we are trying to discover the reason for our existence. And we play through a tapestry of, you know, classic Eurocentric themes, Egyptian, well, I guess I believe they
So
are.
who made this game then? Because this sounds like it's pretty base then. So this is basically a philosophical game with sort of Christian religious overtones in a European setting, which is kind of like going against the grain in the gaming world, really, isn't it? Like you know, obviously games today are more and more sort of like progressive or woke, if you want to call them that, and feature things that you would say might even be described as sort of anti-European in some respects. But this seems to have sort of, overtones in it that are sort of more traditional, if you like, or harking back to, sort of, more positive themes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're a massive developer, but the first was a massive hit, and I think they wanted to continue, and give the fan base what we wanted, really. And essentially, it's the same type of game, but a more thought out story, more conclusive story.
But with obviously with new bits and pieces in it to sort of pad it out somewhat. Okay. Excellent.
How did I get there last time?
And you've already forgotten how to do the puzzles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
I'll tell you what. People mock the humble game streamer, but I'll tell you this: it's harder than you think being the humble game streamer. I'll tell you, it's not as easy as you think. I hope you're having some sort of respect for the amount of stress I go through when I play.
Oh, I've got it now.
Streams. It's a lot more difficult than you think.
Yeah. So this next one, to get the final shape, I've taken the cubes and stacked them on top. And now we've collected all 3, which you'll see in about 30 seconds.
And is it just a single player game then?
Yeah, it's a single player game. But
because aren't the Portal games multiplayer as well?
Portal 2 can be multiplayer, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I didn't think I was like completely, like out of it in terms of, sort of like the situation. But yeah. I was going to say that it is one of those things, like sometimes you play one of these games and, you can play them with a friend and cooperate. I remember there being, I think the games were called Trine, and they were like 2D puzzle platformers, and you played them with 2 or more players, and you all sort of scurried around the levels, helping each other solve things, and it was, I didn't play them, but I know a lot of people who were sort of big fans of those games.
It was fun. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. So, right. So the next step is it's like a Tetris type objective to put the shapes together, so we can open the gates. Again, a mini puzzle within the series, and so we've basically unlocked the next objectives, which we need to collect the yellow blocks now. And so this first series of puzzles are literally to get you to a place of the next part of the story, and like I say, as we play through, the story will unfold.
And when he finds his place in the world, then is his goal just to find his creator, or to challenge his creator in some way?
Well, there's a number of different people involved. It's not just the Elohim. The Elohim is almost like there's similarities to the Matrix. So you had the architect, and then you had the who was the other one? The more feminine figure.
Which one?
There was the architect.
And I know there was the architect. There was the architect was the old sort of white guy with a white beard.
Yeah, and who was that black woman?
KFC guy. She was the. Oh, you mean the Oracle?
The Oracle,
yeah.
So.
I definitely think, mate, we should do an ultra-violent 2-player sort of cooperative game where we had to blast our way through something. High-octane action, mate.
Yeah, this is just chilled and
Very
hopefully.
chilled, isn't it? It's very chilled. It's very relaxed.
Yeah, I like the
It's like
music,
a
the
relaxed
aesthetics
vibe.
as well. So now this is getting slightly harder. This puzzle. Um, so there's two processes to this puzzle now. We've had to assign a fan, and then we've had to take the block and get it onto the next level. And now we're in a position where there's a space for another fan, and we need to hop onto the opposite level. So the question is, how do we do that? And we do that by we have to bring the block back down, I think. I jump there.
I would have played this extensively before doing the stream, so I know exactly what to do. I wish I was seeing this in real time, because I've got the 30-second delay as well, so... I'm thinking what I would do, but I'm obviously behind, so I can't give you advice, which is annoying. So I do like these kind of games in terms of...
Woohoo!
Oh,
Right.
Very good.
Very good. Elohim said I was very good, so I must be doing something right.
well, I'm watching on my end, mate, and you, as I say, I'm about 30 seconds behind. You seem to be making a right meal of it. You get that fan installed, yes.
Yes.
You've just done it on my side, and you've got the block. Well done, mate. Well done.
Yes,
As I say,
yes.
I'm a few seconds behind, but it is.
So
It does look good. I do like these little logic puzzles. I do enjoy games with puzzles. You see, I grew up playing games like Legend of Zelda, and I know that they're not an out-and-out puzzle game, but you have to solve puzzles in the dungeons and in the overworld to sort of advance to the next part of the game. And I do like games where you have to think like that. I mean, I do like action games, but I do find there's a certain sort of beauty to overcoming something in a game, using your mind to overcome something. There's a certain sense of achievement when you do that, and I do think a lot of fun can be derived from that. And I always remember my favourite part of the Zelda games with the dungeons, so that when you're in those dungeons, I can see what you're doing there.
yeah,
When you're in those dungeons, you would be in a situation where you're using your mind to overcome it and to solve all the puzzles to advance to the next level.
I've always
So when you
found
get all
those. I've always found those type of games to just. I don't know. There's a certain type of things you want from a game, isn't there? And for me, it has to make you think. So this next puzzle, I'm getting pushed back by the fan, so it's stopping me from entering into this place. But I know that I need to get there. So I'm thinking, how?
Somebody said I'm very quiet. Is that the case? I can always turn my gain up if I need to.
I'll turn your levels up. I will turn the game volume down as well slightly. Turn mine
Well,
up.
no, because yeah,
Okay.
because if I need to manually adjust my gain, just tell me.
It's okay. Should be better now. I think the
Oh, I
levels...
see what you need to do. I see what you need to do. I should.
Yeah,
be,
yeah,
Actually, I should be in this game. It should be 2-player, mate, and I could.
yeah. Ideally, we'll bring you on again, and it will be. We'll do it.
Payday.
Real...
We should have done Payday 2 and done some online bank robberies.
I'll do. So this next one's a little harder. No, block that.
You
Block
also
that.
sent me a list of very interesting philosophical questions before the stream as well.
Yes, I did. Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you was, what are your goals for 2024?
Well, 2024, I'm sort of loath to ever set sort of New Year's resolutions or goals, but I would really like this year just to build on the sort of solid foundations that we've laid over the last few years, and I would also like to improve myself a little bit. Now, obviously, my daughter's getting a little older now, and when you have a child, one of the first things you notice is how much time you spend with your child and putting into your child. And they get to a certain age and they're a little bit older, a little bit more independent, and they're spending a little bit more time outside the house. And I want to get back to the gym. I want to spend a little bit more time on my physical improvement. I want to prioritize my running again, so I'm not just sort of doing it once or twice a month, but I'm doing it every week again. And I really want to just generally improve my health and fitness and getting it back to sort of pre-COVID, really, because there was so many lockdowns. I kept losing my fitness, getting it back, losing my fitness, getting it back, and sort of post the sort of final COVID lockdown, I have spent an awful lot of time with my family, which I feel really, really happy to be able to say that I could do and I have done. But I would like to sort of spend a little bit more time prioritizing my personal fitness. That's one thing I really want to do. And I would also like politically, really just to build more on the community aspect of what we do. I think, and we're going to reflect that in some of the streams that we're going to be doing. So on the New Year's stream, we had a wonderful couple who are really in for the community-based aspect of what we do, and we're thinking of doing sort of a parenting stream,
Awesome.
and bringing more people together to sort of build stronger bonds. Now, obviously, we don't know what the political landscape will be like at the end of this year. I should imagine the Conservative Party will go further and further into freefall, but I'm not sure whether that will open doors for nationalists or whether that will open more doors for the Labour Party. So I don't want to see us put all of our eggs in one basket. I want to see us keep diversifying what we do as a group and building on the things we've had real success with. So one side of it will be the community building, but I really want to keep the pressure up with the anti-migrant hotel demonstrations, because they were a massive hit last year, and we had huge success getting some of them stopped, getting some of those plans stopped. And I would love this year, I was going to say next year, but no, this year, 2024, to carry on doing that and get into a position where we are sort of, or carry on to be, but at a better rate of success, Britain's premier group when it comes to
Hold on 1 second, sorry.
I can see what you're doing. You're doing the little puzzle, the Tetris puzzle.
Yeah, sorry, it's just sometimes when you're talking it overlaps the Halloween, and you know that's just blasphemous. You wouldn't want to speak over the creator, would you?
I would have done that Tetris puzzle far quicker than you.
Yeah, probably.
I
But
can see you struggling, mate.
I'll just wait 20 seconds or so for you to catch up. So we've done that and we've gone through the gate, and he's mentioned something about a New Jerusalem, which is essentially like some form of utopia city. And in the narrative in this particular game, the New Jerusalem is a basically old mankind has been killed off, and there is room for 1,000 new humans to be created, essentially like under human consciousness, but given synthetic bodies. And so this New Jerusalem is populated with 1,000, as was the sort of incentive by some of the earlier characters who you come to you grow to learn about throughout the game. So in the next stages, after we've got past this, we'll start to learn about the two key characters. You've got the Elohim, who is a sort of a program that created us, who is in everyone's consciousness. And then you have Athena, who is more of the instigator of the creator, all of the creations and what's been created in the physical world.
Okay.
So we're on the final stage with the red blocks now, so it should be a little harder. Fundamental connections. So yeah, speaking of a New Jerusalem, obviously we're not sort of pro-Zionists, but I think within this game, the context of this game, a New Jerusalem would be a sort of a utopia city that we strive to have peace in. And what would that look like for you? A future for I guess our people as Europeans. What would a New Jerusalem?
What would a utopian world look like?
Well, a city or a state, yeah.
That's a really interesting. That's a really interesting question. What would a utopian city or state look like? Well, I really love the countryside, but as people will know, I also really, really like technology. And I think often you have a situation where technology has ended up damaging nature. So the natural world we live in, which is just so beautiful and is so such a defining characteristic of England, has been damaged repeatedly by advancing technology. And I think that's a bad thing. I think it's sad.
Mm.
And I would love to see a technological wonderland that was just a merging of technology with the natural world. So I would like, a low population, really. That's the first thing. You don't want to be densely packed in. You want to have plenty of space, and you want to be surrounded by, forests, trees, waterfalls, rivers. So you want to be surrounded by the natural beauty of the land. And it would be nice if somehow you could have a hyper technological society that lived in absolute harmony with nature. So like the traditional English village that's sort of snuggled away in a beautiful little part of the countryside. It would almost be like a technologically advanced version of that village. And the best way to sort of describe this is, I once saw a documentary about it was a series of shows, actually. I'm calling it documentaries a bit over the top. They weren't really documentaries, but there were a series of shows about these wonderful houses that sort of that architects had made, which were sort of award-winning or something particularly special. And this one architect had built a house that sort of glass, steel, and wood that more or less merged into a forest. So it was surrounded completely by the forest. So when you went out of your door, it was all trees, it was all beautiful. You were nestled right in there in nature. And the house itself, because of the way it was constructed with wood, with natural materials growing on certain parts of it, lots of glass, lots of steel, it kind of merged in with the forest, almost like the house was camouflaged into the forest. So you were really connected with nature, but inside the house, it was like this technological wonderland. It was like absolutely incredible. And I remember watching that thinking, that would probably be my perfect house. So you walk out of your front door and you're running through the most beautiful English countryside. But at the same time, when you get back, you're not in some cabin where you're living by candlelight. You're in this technological wonderland that is in total harmony with the natural world that surrounds it. And that really took me back, and it made me think to myself, you know what? This would be an absolutely fantastic way to live. So you were sort of merging, because I think Europeans have a really distinct sort of connection with technology, because we're an inventive race. I think you can sum up Europeans because we're inventors, we're explorers, we're creators, we're industrialists. But sometimes our sort of pioneering industrialized nature does fly in the face of the countryside, and it harms it. And I live in the north now. I live near Leeds, and I remember once I looked into the history of Leeds Canal, and the canals going through Leeds at one point were so polluted, nearly all of the marine life in the canalways around Leeds was killed off. And that's a tragic situation to be in when you're damaging your natural environment. And what I would like to see is our technology and our creative nature and our sort of industrious spirit be used in a way that worked in harmony with nature to produce this technological wonderland where human beings lived in absolute balance with the natural world. And I think that would be really, really good. And I definitely think that will be something special. I think that would be the sort of thing that that we we as a people could achieve, and it would be, as I say, low population density, because I think it's bad for people to live in high population density
So
areas.
how would you control then low population? Would you just say that there? I mean, would you just have people have to apply for a license to have children, or I mean,
No, I don't look. The vast majority of population growth in the West is driven completely by mass immigration. It's not
true.
driven by white people having lots of children. White people generally don't have lots of children. We have around replacement rate, birth rate, maybe just under. So if anything, a perfect society would give incentives to white people to have slightly more children. And when I say slightly more children, I mean replacement rate. I don't think white people should be sort of coerced into having 5 or 6 children just to compete with immigrants. We shouldn't. We should never be placed in a situation within our own nations where we have to compete with migrants. But having a low population density, high IQ, high trust society of our own people living in a very natural, green, pleasant land where we also have the benefits of technology would be fantastic. I'm just going to work this out for you, actually. So sorry about the tapping on the keyboard. So if you look at the UK population in 1970, it was around 55 million people. Okay, now sort of 50 years later, you've got 70 million. So we've seen a population increase of 15 million people. So that's like 30% of the population. We've had a 30% population increase over the last 50 years. Now that's incredible.
It is. It's staggering. I mean, even if you go back 200 years, you're probably looking at half of the world population today, aren't you? Or maybe less than that.
Okay, UK population, 1800. UK population in 1800 was 10.5 million.
Wow.
So, just over 200 years ago, we've increased our population sort of 7-fold in 200 years. It's staggering. And what I'm saying is, we don't need to have a giant and ever-growing population. That's sort of this globalist lie that, we need huge amounts of people. We need to keep people coming in. We need to get as many people possible just pouring in to the UK. We don't. And I think a lot of what's said is said because what they want is an ever-growing population, so GDP keeps rising. Everything's built on this belief that everything will be good, everything will be fine.
Do you think the necessity for them wanting GDP to continue to rise is to perpetuate their control through their monetary system then? That's the reason for growth.
I think part of it is everything that we do now, our economic systems are not based on people being happy. They're not based on people being healthy. They're based on the idea that you need constant, perpetual economic growth. Constant. And that is the best economic system. But that is something that's largely unsustainable, unless, however, you just keep growing the population. And that's how they're doing it. And I don't understand what the obsession with economic growth is. I think the obsession should be creating a safe, comfortable
Hold on 1 second,
world.
sorry. I'm just going to paraphrase. A new world awaits.
Could never have imagined. In that world, you will have to be careful and smart and curious. But above all else, you will have to be human.
So you'll hear the initiation from the Elohim about a new world which we're about to enter into. Hopefully a world which you see, Mark, one day. Sorry to cut you off there, by the way. What were you
No,
saying
I'm just
before?
saying that I was just saying that the world we fashion should be one. So people often ask what sort of the meaning of life, and I
Yeah.
would say that the meaning of life is fundamentally life itself. So the meaning of life is life, because every life form on the planet strives for two things: to survive for as long as possible and to procreate as many times as possible. So life sort of exists to extend and replicate itself. So the conditions that we live in should be conducive to that. The conditions that white people live in should follow that meaning of life.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the conditions we live in should be conducive to a healthy, long, and fulfilling existence where we have the financial stability and room to raise children, to pass on our genes, and to create, more of us in our own image. However,
Mm-hmm.
in today's world, in this endless battle to raise GDP, women go out to work, men work longer hours, we bring in more people, population density increases, and actually the quality of our lives dip, and the drive to have children is placed to one side, and instead replaced with this wanton materialism and the idea that we as a people should instead focus on just making money. So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, the two things that I said of the meanings of life, sort of, life itself, extending your own
Hold on,
life,
Mark.
and
Sorry, the
having.
next scene is launching now.
You're awake.
No, it's...
Welcome to the world of the living.
Okay, so the options I've been given are to ask the robot who I'm seeing now as I'm sort of initiated into this new reborn life form. So I'm assuming what preceded us was the test to pass in order to be born, and us being the 1000th new human being born because we have just passed a series of tests. So we've been posed with some questions. We can state, I'm alive, or I can ask what's going on, or we can say, hi, pleased to meet you. So I think we should ask what's going on.
That's not an easy question to answer. But the first step is this. You've been born. Your body was completed. You were booted up, and now you're here. And rather confused. Don't worry, everyone is confused at first. You see, we all start out without a full knowledge of our own history, so we have the freedom to form our own opinions.
Really use some pointers.
You want the short version or the long version?
So do you want the short version, Mark, or the long version?
Oh, I think you should give the audience what the audience would desires.
What do they want? Well, maybe we could... Yeah. Let's just go with the short version for now. We can always go into details later.
All right, let's see. You are a human being.
It's your stream, my friend, and I want you to be the driving force behind this.
So our ancestors were wiped out by a plague. We were created to carry forward the legacy.
That was used to create her mind. She founded the city of New Jerusalem and set the goal of creating 1,000 new humans. That took a long time, about a millennium in fact, and in the meantime, she sadly decided to go into exile. But finally, you have arrived. You're welcome. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them. When you're done, head outside. They're waiting for you. Your birth is quite the event.
Okay, so there's a load of other questions. It's ideally it would have been nice if we could be in real time together, but I'll probably ask one of these questions, and let's ask about the founder. What happened to the founder?
No one really knows. At first, she was closely involved with everything that happened in the city, but gradually she became more distant. And one day, she simply vanished. That was centuries ago. He was the caretaker of the simulation that created the founder. When the simulation was completed, he became part of all of us. You will hear him whenever you enter sleep mode. Nothing to worry about, really. Oh, one more thing. Like all citizens of New Jerusalem, you have access to the interface, which you can use to read the news, chat to your fellow citizens, and so on. It's a crucial tool, and modular too. You can easily add new functions. Just don't subscribe to too many newsletters at once.
Okay. So, just to summarize, we've passed the tests as a program in the system, and because we've passed, we have been granted a berth into a body in the physical world in the New Jerusalem, which was founded by someone called Athena, who essentially became more and more distant and has gone into exile. And there is the Elohim, who is the source, part of the source code, which is in our internal sort of memory, and that Elohim is always with us, talking to us. And so I guess we are in a position where we are trying to understand who Athena is, what holds of this New Jerusalem, and there's, I think, an ongoing conflict with understanding who the Elohim is, the ultimate creator.
I thought we were Elohim.
No, we are the 1,000.
So we're the creation of the Elohim.
We are 1K, and we've just been initiated into the New Jerusalem.
I think you need to explain this. And I think I've missed something.
At least give him a chance.
It'll be explained.
Citizens of New Jerusalem. Many years ago, when the founder stepped forth from the simulation, this was a land of...
So all of these fellow creations then?
In their hubris, undermined the natural foundations on which their world had
Well, no,
been built.
because I like on the screen now I can see lots of robots.
Yeah, there are 1,000.
The founder aimed to set us on a new course.
You never even met the founder.
Her vision was of a city, a new civilization that would know its limits. It would not repeat the mistakes of the past, nor impose its will on this earth. To that end, she set the great goal we have been striving towards. 1,000 new humans. And today we have... Oh dear, what's that?
People of New Jerusalem, I am Prometheus, and I will reveal that which was hidden. The flame has awoken and summons you. Who is brave enough to answer its call? We await you upon our island, where... Curse you, Pandora. You will not chain me again.
I told you we should have investigated those energy readings. And I told him there's something up with those structures.
The mayor's just being cautious.
This isn't caution, it's stagnation. Exploration? Too dangerous. Expansion? Too dangerous. We barely even scavenge anymore.
You call it stagnation, I call it balance.
And I call you an idiot.
Here's a thought. Try to be a little more diplomatic when you talk to the mayor.
See what I'm working with here, 1K? I'm gonna need a fresh pair of eyes on this expedition. Someone who hasn't spent several centuries hearing about the goal and the founder and all that nonsense. If you're up for an adventure, meet us at the conference room.
Okay, so we're in the city.
And is this the New Jerusalem?
This is essentially the New Jerusalem. So let's just discuss what's transpired. We've been reborn.
Well, this is quite. I've got to say, this does look quite close. Not exactly the same as what I was saying I would like as a sort of a paradise. It looks sparsely populated, technologically advanced, but it does seem to be a merging of nature and technology.
Yeah, it does look very much like a utopian place. But you notice there's a lot of sort of tropes, traditional European tropes. You've got Prometheus, and you've got...
Well, Prometheus is the creator, isn't he? He's basically God.
Yeah, kind of. In a different sort of type of story, yeah. So you've got Elohim as well, who's also seen as a god in other cultural kind of tradition, books and cultures. Prometheus, he's more of a sort of an alien type physical being, isn't he? We've got Athena.
Well, no, Prometheus in Greek mythology, wasn't he the creator of mortal men? Wasn't
He
the
may
one
have been,
who
actually.
created them?
He may have been. I was coming at the more.
I'm
the
googling
aliens.
this. I'm
Go on,
googling
then.
this. Sorry for the tapping. Sorry for the tapping. Prometheus in Greek mythology. Right. In Greek mythology, Prometheus is one of the Titans, the supreme trickster and a god of fire. In common belief, he developed into a master craftsman, and in this connection, he was associated with fire and the creation of mortals. So I was right about this. His intellectual side was emphasized, but the apparent meaning of his name, which means forethinker.
That's it. Don't worry, 1K.
Hmm.
I see you there in the elevator.
So,
I'll be moving again in a jiffy.
yeah,
We're in
that's,
the-
Life in the city, huh?
We're in the elevator now, and yeah, from what we're looking at, Mark,
Jiffy.
um,
Bloody language library.
I think from what you explained of your utopian city, we pretty much have it here. It's high tech, seems to be fully aligned with nature, and even the designs, the aesthetics have the curves in them, which are kind of reminiscent of nature themselves. So it all seems very harmonious, doesn't it?
yeah, I've got to say, I'm not a fan of harsh lines. You know, so if you drive through English villages, everything is like windy roads and there's character to it. Whereas if you go to a place where if you go to a place which has been planned, like I hate those planned suburban areas in America where everything's built just as a grid. I don't think there's any character to it. They don't look organic. When you see
No.
sort of routes or veins, you know, they're never exactly structured. they look, you know, there is obviously they are organic, and
We're
there
about
is that
to,
organic nature.
yeah, we're about to meet another character now,
Hey,
Okay.
hold on there.
who's
You ain't new, big
666 T666.
1000. I figured the dam would go dry before we reach the goal. I have a question. How does it feel to you to be born with a randomized psyche into a society of autonomous thinking machines which so much resemble their long-extinct ancestors, they've decided it's best that you're the last one ever made? Do you want to get on the non-cooperative path with me? Because that's how you get on the non-cooperative path. It's not fun. Why? So, the algorithm assigned you the optimism trait. If only we could all be so lucky. Now listen, this meeting isn't strictly happenstance. I have some friends. The kind of people who like to know what's going on with other people. They think you can help each other out. Of course you are. You know how to use the interface, right? I'll talk to my friends and see if I can't play matchmaker. And before you go, a word of advice. Not everything around here is how it appears.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Do please join us at the table.
I'll just wait for the stream to catch up. So what are your thoughts then on these typical characters? We've got 666 in there, who is going to be a sort of an archetype of a villain. I guess a thread of a villain throughout, with T666, another trope of like a devilish number. And we're about to enter the table now, so we'll be going through some more discussion.
I've got to say, it is a very interesting. It's an interesting game, and I've just looked it up on Steam. It's $24.99 on Steam, but it's got a 96% positive rating from reviews. So from over 6,000 user reviews, 96% of them gave this a positive rating. So people obviously really, really like it. It's held in really, really high regard. And it does look the kind of game that if you like something that's sort of more relaxed, more thoughtful, and has got an intriguing plot set in a different world.
Yeah.
I think this is the kind of game
we're just loading the next scene.
And you didn't listen to me, and here we are.
If we could focus on the issue at hand.
The issue at hand is not this one thing, but this entire attitude that's taken hold. The world doesn't cease to exist when you stick your head in the sand, Herman. Or under a dome, as it were.
Let's not get sidetracked. We're here to solve this puzzle, not to discuss philosophy.
Of course, I'm sorry you've been dragged into this. I'm sure this sort of adventure is the last thing you were looking for on your first day.
Ha! See? A fresh mind is open to the possibilities. Yakut, I think it's time for the briefing.
All right, here we go. Nice to meet you, by the way, 1K. We first became aware of the site designated TTP-2 during a scouting expedition about 6 months ago. It's a large island with a remarkably varied geography, and it looks like there are several artificial structures of some kind. We recorded extremely unusual fluctuating energy readings from somewhere in the middle of the island, but couldn't really make sense of them. I wanted to go and have a closer look, but the decision was made that it was too far and not relevant to the goal. Now it looks like whatever's on that island has reached out to us instead in the form of that projection.
We may not be interested in the island, but the island is definitely interested in us.
Sounds like something worth investigating, the island.
I don't share your enthusiasm for the unexpected, but
So when do we get to
Byron has requested an
investigate?
expedition for some time now, and at this point I'm forced to agree.
It's an island where the Prometheus is going to be.
I agree.
How do we get to the island?
The expedition
We'll
is
get taken soon.
Byron, you will be in charge. Al will be your second in command to ensure a balanced approach. You'll take Melville and Yakut as you requested, and if 1K wants to join you, that's fine by me.
Would we like to join in on the expedition to the island and try
I
and
don't think
see?
there's any other option. I don't think we've got any other option.
We have no option. I'm in.
Excellent.
I mean, is there an option? If you say no.
Could try that.
When you're ready.
Well, there is that game. Is it Far Cry? Is it Far Cry 5 or Far Cry 6? No, Far Cry 5, where it gives you an option at the beginning of the game to arrest somebody or not arrest somebody, and if you choose to walk away, you actually complete the game instantly.
Really? Well, but without any
Yeah.
end credits and the actual game ending. So
No,
we're
no,
just
because-
heading back out now into the world. We're going to look around before, and we'll finish off asking you some questions.
No, the whole thing with Far Cry 5 is if you choose to make the arrest, it leads to a gunfight that leads to the rest of the game. But if you choose just to back down and walk away, then by de-escalating the situation, you avoid all the bloodshed, and that's actually the best ending. The best ending is to not play the game.
Really? Wow, that's quite interesting. Yeah.
It's basically it's quite an anti-white and anti-Christian game because the bad guys are sort of this white redneck family of like Christian fundamentalists who've got their hands on a nuclear bomb, and you go there and and they're running this cult, and you go there, this Christian cult who are like a doomsday cult, and you go there to arrest the leader because of his transgressions, and if you try to carry out the arrest, it leads to a gunfight, which then builds to the rest of the game taking place, which is you trying to take down the cult. However, if you choose not to make the arrest and de-escalate and walk away, the rest of the game doesn't take place. And essentially, one of the sort of things is, I think whatever ending you get if you play the game, somebody dies, or at worst that the nuclear bomb is set off. Whereas if you walk away and de-escalate, no one actually dies. So it's quite a sort of a funny sort of way of doing the game, that by not playing it, you actually have the best outcome, which ironically is the best thing because it's got some quite
definitely interesting
Christian themes. And it's a Far Cry game, so it's basically a copy and paste of every other Far Cry game that has gone before. So this game is
I'm
quite
just
nice looking as
exploring.
well.
It is. I'm exploring the city now. Yeah, I need to hop down.
What are your settings? Have you got
So-
this all on graphical max?
No, it's not maxed out. My laptop's an i7, but it's
Are
about
you
5
doing
years
this
old
on a
now.
laptop and not on a double screen setup?
No, I have. It's a laptop that I feed into a monitor. I've got 3 monitors, so I've got my laptop screen, I have my main large screen, and then a third screen on the right. So I've managed to split it up.
No, because I was going to say I couldn't,
So-
because I use a dual monitor setup. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah,
a
no,
screen
definitely
with
not.
dual monitor.
I need to have multiple screens for working. So I'm just going to look around the city now and show the general aesthetics off. And we'll finish off with some questions, I think. So there's a couple of questions left for you. So what are your thoughts, your general thoughts on artificial intelligence, and how do you think it will pose a potential threat or benefit to the future of humanity?
Well, I think artificial intelligence poses a number of threats fundamentally. And I see artificial intelligence in the same way that I see mechanization. So when the world went through the Industrial Revolution, jobs were provided in sort of mining, fabrication, construction, and white men went to work and they had jobs that they were proud of doing. They created things. So people went and they made cars, they worked in the steel industry, they worked, they went to the mines, and men took real pride in what they did. And then we moved to a world of mechanization, and mechanization took away a lot of jobs. Mechanization ended up stripping a lot of men of their worth and massively increasing unemployment. And if you now go around to areas where there used to be industry and there used to be extraction, South Yorkshire is a great example. You see places that were once tight-knit communities where people were moral, decent, upstanding people who lived, good lives, and their families were good families. Mum, dad, kids, and the kids listened to the elders. And when mechanization took place, many people lost their jobs. The car industry went from being a massive, a mass employer. The steel industry employed, thousands upon thousands of people, and so did the mining industries. And we lost all of those, and it led to huge unemployment. And that unemployment had a knock-on effect. It destroyed families, it destroyed communities, and it created we went from having these estates, which were communities, proud people, to being sink estates and shattered communities. And we were told that this would be a temporary thing, and that the jobs would be replaced by service industry jobs and sort of white collar professional jobs. So the blue collar jobs were lost because of mechanization, but everyone was going to be retrained and work in the service industries and take on white collar positions, because that was what a first world nation was transcending to. The only places where people would be mining or doing things with their hands, because of mechanization, was sort of in the developing world or the third world. So we were going to transition to this better world. And I think AI is going to do to the white collar worker what mechanization did to the blue collar worker. So as we saw mechanization take away jobs and say, the car industry, we will see AI destroy jobs of web designers, architects, accountants, people who spend all day doing data inputting and working things out. Artists, graphic designers. I mean, I remember when you wanted a piece of artwork, you would go to somebody on Fiverr, sort of a lady in Russia or a young guy in India, and say, look, here's $35 or $50. Can you do me this caricature? Can you do me this piece of artwork? Can you draw me this vector? And they would spend maybe 10 hours working on a piece for you, and you would give them $35, $50, and they'd be over the moon, and you'd be over the moon. You'd be like, I got that for next to nothing. And they'd be like, well, in my country that's not next to nothing, I'm getting paid really well. But now what you're going to do is go to an AI site, or a site with an advanced piece of artificial intelligence, and you're going to pay them $15 a month, and it'll spew out infinite pieces of artwork for you, and people lose their jobs.
I think
you're.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's
the first bit of the bad. There's more bad to come.
Okay.
I'm not finished with the bad. I also think that AI has the potential to replace. You see, human beings are creative creatures. We express ourselves through our creativity, and that has always been part of the European spirit. We talked about this earlier, the European spirit, our creative nature. And I think that as Europeans, we stand above many other people because of our creativity, because of the art we produce, the poetry, the literature, and if you basically take that away from us, and a computer program starts producing what we can produce, but better and in a fraction of a second, I think it really does strip us of quite a lot of the meaning of
Yeah.
life in a way.
I-
You know, of our, well, not meaning of life, but the way we express ourselves as an ethnic group. The way we express ourselves as an ethnic group will be taken away from us, and that spark of creativity, which is very unique to Europeans in the way we do express ourselves, will basically be taken away and replaced by computer programs. And I think not only are we going to see a loss of jobs, but we will see a loss of purpose, a loss of drive, and I think it's going to be something that will be used to basically get us all sat in our pods on universal basic income, without employment, without reason for being, you know, and we will just consume. Everything will be done for us. Everything will be reduced by machines. Every piece of artwork. I mean, you've already seen it in Hollywood. One of the reasons the script writers were up in arms is because scripts were being written and finished by AI.
Yeah.
And you will see that, but you're going to see that with films. I mean, think of it like this. If you think of like the Avengers, at one point you would have teams of hundreds of people who would sit down at computer terminals, very powerful computer terminals, and produce cutting edge graphics, cutting edge CGI. But AI, you might well be able to put a film like Avengers Endgame into an artificial intelligence program and simply tell it to improve the film, and it comes out with better CGI, better graphics, a better picture, takes out continuity errors, if there's little bloopers, it edits them out, and it figures all this out and does it in a matter of maybe minutes. So you've got like maybe a 3-hour film, and in a couple of minutes, an AI program has improved it and made it sort of immeasurably better to the point of being perfect in a way that a human being couldn't make it perfect. And then you've got the scary thing of, it's not just art, literature and poetry, but then it's acting. It's being human. And another thing, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've made a number of videos about OnlyFans and the way OnlyFans has had a seriously negative impact on both young men and young women. But I don't know if you've seen this. There are now AI females that men pay to have as girlfriends, and these AI programs text them, send them flirty messages, ask them if they're okay, and they can read the response of the messages and reply accordingly. And if the man's feeling flirtatious, he might get a sexy message back with his AI girlfriend in the outfit that the AI thinks he would like. And I think what this is going to do is not bring us a golden wonderland. It's not going to bring us a brave new world that we all love. It's going to make us more atomized, more isolated, take away the things that make us human, and ultimately lead to a very dark place. And what I've outlined there is probably one of the better case scenarios, because the worst case scenario is that AI achieves some kind of sentience and decides that we as humans are the greatest threat to all other species of plant and animal life on this planet, and thinks that we need to be culled. And you've got a Terminator style situation. And to be honest, one thing that always, before you say anything, I'll just say this. My final point is, one thing that always stood out to me in the film The Matrix was when Agent Smith said he'd figured out that humans weren't actually mammals, that we were actually bacteria, and all that we do as people is multiply rapidly like bacteria and destroy everything else in our environment. And I always thought that was an interesting observation. But what if an AI did come to that conclusion? Said, look, well, you're destroying the rainforest, you've wiped out all these other species, you're not only a threat to yourself, but you're a threat to every other living organism on the planet. And you've got these weapons of mass destruction, these nuclear bombs, these hydrogen bombs. It's time for you guys to go. There's a lot to unpack in everything I've just said. But I think overall, AI does pose a number of threats, at best to the cohesiveness of our society, and at worst to the human race as a whole.
Do you not think that if it was controlled in some way, because as it stands, AI to me doesn't seem so sentient. It's not sentient. It's actually quite stupid. It's just like an extremely advanced calculator based on input and output, and it always needs the conscious intelligence to guide it. Do you think that it could be an extension of our creativity and our intelligence, and we essentially become composers, which will enable us to build faster, better, and more intricate by just being an extension of ourselves, of our creativity and intelligence, as opposed to stifling it? Is that something that's possible, or do you think it's just teaching on being too dangerous?
Well, look, I want to address something you said. You said it was like AI wasn't particularly advanced. But I'm going to say this to you. Back in 1995, I bought, it might have been 1996, but it came out in 1995. I bought Doom for the Super Nintendo, okay? And Doom for the Super Nintendo was cutting edge, home entertainment. It was Doom on a home games console on your TV in your living room. And walking around in first person was cutting edge. It was cutting edge. Now you look back on it now, and it was low resolution. It was choppy frame rate. I still love it because of nostalgia, and I still actually like the SNES version best because it's the one I was brought up on. But by modern standards, it's a joke. But the point I'm getting to is less than 30 years later, we've gone from Doom on the Super Nintendo to Warzone 2, which on the best PC you can buy is almost photorealistic, 150 players on a gigantic map, and it's just the jump in technology has been so great in less than 30 years. What will the next jump in technology be? And you may say AI is stupid at the moment, but where is AI going to be in that same 3-decade leap? That's the first thing. And the second thing, what you're saying, could it be used for positives? Well, everything can be used for a positive if you use it as a tool, okay? A tool can always be used to create, and it can often be used to destroy. But we're not talking about a tool here. We're talking about something. We're talking about a tool that actually takes creation into its own hands. So if I gave a sculptor a better quality chisel, he would thank me and he would say to me, well, this is great, Mark, because now my sculptures will be a finer quality. You've increased my potential by, giving me better tools. But what would happen if I gave a sculptor a chisel that flew out of his hand, did the sculpture for him, but far better than he could ever do it himself? Well, at that point, that's not a tool. You've actually replaced the sculptor. The sculptor is now being replaced by a super advanced tool, which makes him obsolete. And what I'm saying is, you yourself are a graphic artist, and I remember something I used to like watching on YouTube was people who used computers to paint. And when people first got programs like, Coral Photo Paint or, Photoshop, and they painted these gigantic pictures on their computer, I used to love watching stop motion videos of those. So they were sped up, so you would see them do a 50-hour painting, in 15 minutes, and it was brilliant. And that was a tool. But what we're talking about here is a tool so advanced that the creator is no longer needed, and it takes creation out of our hands and replaces us in that process. And I think that's very dangerous. I think it's dangerous. And I said what the meaning of life is, but I think creation gives people purpose and it gives people fulfillment. So, for example, I watch my daughter build things using Lego, and I also watch her. We've got a crafter box at home, And she goes to the craft box and she'll get some felt and her scissors and some pipe cleaners and, you know, some sellotape and some glue. And she'll spend, you know, 30 minutes sometimes, you know, beavering around and say, Daddy, Daddy, look what I've made. And I'll say, what's that, Sophia? And she'll be like, well, that's the grass. And that's the little house. And that's a... And I'll be like, what's the blue thing? She's that, Daddy, that's the pond. And she's created that. And she takes great pride in her creation. Now imagine... you know, if the craft box just came to life and, you know, built a absolutely perfect scale model village, you know, with a water wheel and a a road system and smoke coming out the chimneys of the little houses, it would be incredible, but it wouldn't be special because it wasn't created by my daughter. It's special because it's the creation of my daughter. And I think that's the thing. We are taking part of what is, you know, intrinsically linked to our spirit and putting it in the hands of sort of a computer. And I think this is going to take away more than it gives. And in the short term, people will clamour for this because they'll say it'll make my life easier. But when it replaces them and their job, it won't be quite as good. And people say, oh, yeah, but you'll always need humans to oversee it. Well, yeah, you always need people in the factory, you know, to fix the, you know, the machines when they stop working. But that doesn't mean the factory is full of those people. The factory is maybe at 1% capacity of what it was. It's all the machines with a manager, you know, somebody sat behind a computer desk and 2 engineers sat on standby. But there's not the hundreds or thousands of people there anymore. And I think they're just replacing everything that we do. And I think it's going to lead us down a dark road. And ultimately, when people lose that purpose that they derive from creating things and doing things, most people will unfortunately turn to darkness. They'll turn to drink, they'll turn to drugs, they'll turn to smoking, they'll turn to obesity or gambling, and they'll live darker existences for that. I think creation or that creative spark that we have brings light not only to the world around us, but it brings an inner light out in us that is wonderful. It's part of our nature, and I think AI is a threat to all that.
Interesting. Do you believe in an afterlife?
You know what? I find it very difficult to believe that all of this is happening, and when you pass, there would be nothing. I find that hard to believe. And I also find it hard to believe that there is nothing when you speak to so many people who've had near-death experiences, and they all experience similar things. And I think in this world of technological wonder, there are still many things that we as human beings can't explain. So, yes, I do believe in an afterlife, and I do think there has to be more out there. And I think if there's not more out there, what would be the point of everything? I don't know. I don't know whether that's just me comforting myself, but especially now that I'm a father, the idea of one day, you know, lying on my deathbed and never being reconnected, you know, with my daughter at some point, or never seeing what she goes on to achieve, would be, it's sort of heartbreaking. And I think that there is something else out there. And one thing that I've been reading recently is how increasingly there's a large body of scientists who, you know, are saying that the world we live in is some kind of simulation or some kind of Petri dish, you know, program where we're all held in here as some kind of experiment ourselves. And in a way, that would be an afterlife, a sort of scientific afterlife, if you like, because we'd all be in some kind of simulation. Well, I don't know.
The way this game ended in the first place was that the Talos Principle won. And it was a different take on afterlife, because the afterlife was essentially the experiences, the sum total experiences of you that you accumulated that get passed on onto other iterations of consciousness, or, you know, the program, so to speak. So the afterlife essentially was the sum total experience being remanifested in a new form or evolved state, which I thought was interesting. Not something I completely agree with, but I just thought it was a different and a take on afterlife. And also, there's a number of different concepts of afterlife. There's the thought that an afterlife is the way you live on in memories, for example. So you're not truly conscious, but other than being conscious and live in memory. I mean, that's the only certain afterlife that we can be sure of is how we're remembered. You know, like icons influence and continue to have an impact on this earth long after they're gone. So that's some form of an afterlife. And another form of afterlife is, which, and I'm not sure you're religious or how religious the audience is, but I read my Bible quite a lot, and there was a scripture which I read, and I've noticed a correlation. It talks about the life being in the blood. And when you look up, which I do really dissect a lot of the original language, such as the Greek and the ancient Hebrew, which is the Paleo Hebrew, and there's an association with life and soul. So essentially, the understanding is that the soul of a being, of a creature, is passed on through the blood, which makes perfect sense in that your DNA, your memories, your ancestors are all passed on. They all and you as an organism, you know, a organic form, capture the soul. The soul lives on through the blood, and them shared experiences get passed on throughout. So that is a more biological afterlife, based on a more biological afterlife that kind of shares a thread from the ending of the first game, Talos Principle, which I thought was interesting. So, you know, there's different types of afterlife that we can have, but with regards to a spiritual afterlife of being conscious, obviously, you know, we're from a Christian perspective, there's you know, this heaven, hell, and it's almost like an echo of how you've lived here on earth in eternity. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but the only thing we can be sure of for now is, you know, the life we live here on earth, and how we treat people, how we treat our brothers and sisters, and, you know, the things we strive for. But yeah, it's
I
something
think it's a
to
really
think
interesting
about.
thing you say about, like, sort of, you know, that if you sort of have, I suppose if you have children, even if you do die, you have a genetic afterlife because your genes live on.
Yeah.
And in some ways, everything that your children go on to do is an expression of you. And it's quite funny, like when you do go on to have children, I will say my daughter does certain things that are just sort of versions of me or her mother. And when you see her doing so, you know, her mother is very, very creative and artistic, and Sophia is really artistic and creative. She loves the craft box, she loves drawing, she loves all things like that. And that's very much from her mother. But she's also got a very, very fiery temper. And
Is that from you?
She's the kind of that, yes, she is very much like me when it comes to her, you know, to her fiery temper and her little mood swings when, you know, she's not winning or things aren't going right. And, you know, her mother always says, that's you coming out, and that is you. You know. And I do think it's quite interesting when you talk about sort of an afterlife, and you talk about this sort of, you know, idea of a genetic afterlife, because that is just something that is so you know, it is so true. And I think it's quite interesting that the powers that be, in their sort of drive to prevent white people from breeding and prevent white people from having children, or dissuading them from having children, there is obviously the issue of sort of us as a people, you know, continuing not to you know, not to exist. But there's also the issue that they are robbing us almost of you know, of our afterlife, of living on. You know, they're taking away that sort of eternal life of your genetics being on the planet 300, 400, 1,000 years after you're long gone.
Yeah. Yes, it's a damn shame, but I think our people will continue to live on for many centuries more. I think we are being refined. I think we're undergoing a lot of hardships, but it's a filtering process, and we're being refined through fire. And if you think about it, we will dwindle in number. We will get we could go down to like 2-3% of the world population, if not 1% of the world population. But by doing that, it's only going to enable the best of our people, the better thinkers. And if you think about that, the soul of the ancestors that are the best of that have ever lived will get to see, a future. So there is hope in darkness. I think we just have to make sure that we find a cohesive common ground and put all of our differences aside, because there are too many divisions within our movement, even between pagan, Christian, and so on. It's we haven't got time for that. Even within the nationalist movement.
I actually do. I agree there. I think one thing that never fails to disappoint.
I'm stuck on this puzzle, by the way, and we're chatting too deep for me to. I need to focus on that, and so.
Yeah, you see, that's one thing I'll say about you. That's one thing you say about you. I am very good at doing these streams and actually playing the game and talking, whereas you always get really angry with me. You don't get angry at me really often. But I remember you got really angry with me in the Resident Evil 5 stream because I was talking too much and you were hoarding all the ammo, and I accused you of hoarding the ammo, and you really snapped at me. Then you had all the ammo. I think that was our best ever moment on stream. And you are one of the people I enjoy gaming with on stream. But I just wish you'd picked a game. I wish you'd picked a game where we could have both been playing at the same time. Because I feel like my hands are twitchy.
Yeah, no. We'll if you want, come back on in a few weeks or so. And I mean, you could come on next week if you wanted. But I didn't want you to be too sort of tied down.
The only guest.
Yeah, I'm the only guest. I've got a few other people in.
Week, mate. You should get
Sam I was thinking Sam. Donald Kent is up for it as well.
Kent's a great guy.
So I am just finding the way out. So yeah, there's the food first two guests.
You're in Headless.
I'm in Headless chicken mode.
Patriotic Headless chicken mode.
Oh, here we are. The last place to look is always the place to find something, isn't it? But here we are, and I think this will be the best place to end the stream. And the last question.
It's got to go on for 3 hours now until you complete this puzzle. Else I'm going to drive.
No, I think before we head to the island, we've had a bit of a browse around. Done some last puzzles. We've had some chats. And this is kind of what I wanted from this stream, to be honest. We got to have a bit of action. We got to talk, got to game, and got to see a different side of yourself. And that's what I want to kind of bring to light as well. Different conversations that aren't just nationalist focused, but a bit more philosophical in nature
and spiritual.
Yeah, exactly. And I think these things are important. So this will be a sort of a continued theme throughout as we play through this whole game. And and I think next week we'll be having Donald Kent on the show. We'll be heading to the island and we'll be exploring more of the narrative within this game. And so to end, the last question for yourself, Mark, is what single piece of advice would you give to people, fellow nationalists, and our people for 2024?
If you haven't done it yet, seek out somebody that you love, have children, and start a family. I gotta say, Christmas this year really brought it home to me. Just how magical it is being a dad. Having an excitable little girl who can't wait to see what Santa's bought her. I've got to say, that really did make my year. And the strange thing is, until you get there in life, it's quite easy to sort of be selfish. But when you have a child, you truly understand what it's like to be selfless because you do anything for them. But not only that, I've got to say this: it is something that it just brings you so much joy in so many little ways. And I would definitely say, everyone who's listening, the most important thing you can do in life is be part of a community and grow that community by bringing little versions of yourself into the world. And that's my advice to everyone, really. And I hope we have a great 2024 as a community. You know, I hope we keep growing. I hope we keep expanding our friendship circle and building strong bonds between us as people. But I would love to see us get into a position at some point where there's so many of us who are families, who do have children, that we could all sort of move to the same area and just live next door to each other and have our own little, you know, ethno-community where we could just revel in ourselves and the things that make us special and bring us so much joy. That's really where I'd like to be, and that's my advice to everyone. And I just want to say as well, and keep supporting the Patriot. His work's incredible. He really is genuinely one of the most creative and humble people I've ever met. He does some incredible artwork. I've known him for years, and his, you know, personal and professional portfolios are both incredible, and the effort he puts into and love he puts into his work, it really does show. This guy deserves a lot more subs. He deserves a lot more support, and he's somebody that I'm really proud to say, you know, he's both a comrade and a friend. So yeah, give this guy all the support he deserves.
Thank you very much. And yeah, with regards to art, there's been a few dry spells the past half year, but 2024 for myself is my objectives are to push the Patriotic Arts community more, to stream regular, to do regular art, and to just shake off any kind of black pills and any doubts and fears, and just, you know, we can't really take, I don't think we can overcome our enemies from a position of fear. We just have to be proactive, positive, and just keep pushing what we believe in, and you know, fighting, really. So yeah, on that note, thanks for being our first guest, Mark, and yeah, we will continue this stream episode 2 next week. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. All the best for 2023.